Former Prime Minister and current Opposition Leader Allen Chastanet maintains that his administration's decision to close the state-owned Radio Saint Lucia (RSL) was a necessary measure to decrease government spending. The station formally ceased operations on July 31, 2017, after facing persistent financial difficulties, leaving the island without a public radio broadcaster. Chastanet, who espoused the, quote, run a country like a business philosophy during his tenure, recently reiterated his rationale for the closure during a Thursday night sit-down. He pointed to mounting losses and a lack of profitability compared to other stations as key reasons for RSL's demise.
I was able to, by prioritizing where we were spending money, we asked some very tough questions. I mean, Radio Saint Lucia is a good example. You know, it would have required $8 million to have recapitalized Radio Saint Lucia. And then you ask yourself, once it's operational again, can it continue to operate the way it was? It had 23 staff making an average salary of $2,500 a month. Now, when you looked at the other 13 radio stations, they had on average 8 people making an average salary of $1,800. And those radio stations were doing a really good job around Saint Lucia.
Critics argue that the value of a public broadcaster far outweighs its operational costs, highlighting its critical role during national disasters and events of national importance. Chastanet, however, believes that a public service function could have been maintained, albeit in a different format than RSL's previous incarnation.
In order for the radio station to compete, it has to get what to generate revenue? Advertising. So it means now it's going to be competing against the private sector that's been doing this fantastic job. And we felt it was better to go out and support and encourage the radio stations and what they were doing, but you didn't need a traditional radio station to be able to do that.
The station, which cultivated some of Saint Lucia's most prominent broadcasters, also housed a significant archive that subsequently fell into a state of disrepair. The opposition leader places the blame for the archive's decline on other officials, stating that they should have taken more proactive measures to preserve it.
I went up to Radio Saint Lucia, which was up on the Morne. There was a huge hole in the floor. There was a massive hole in the roof. The archives of you and all the other great persons that made up the history of Radio Saint Lucia were on disc in a chicken coop outside in the elements.
Yeah, a little shed. Yeah.
Right? So I'm just saying to you, we talk about patrimony. That's what represented the patrimony of Radio Saint Lucia. And for some of those persons to come out and to criticize what we're going to do, but yet they sat silently and allowed that condition to be there, was wrong.
Chastanet asserted that his government's plan was to redirect more resources into NTN to improve its service and program quality. In August 2025, the Philip J. Pierre-led government, in a strategic alliance with Helen Television System, reinstated public broadcasting on RSL's former frequency, 97.3 FM, rebranding it as Saint Lucia FM. The broadcast minister, Dr. Ernest Hilaire, addressed past criticisms over profitability by arguing that a public radio station like RSL was never intended to be solely on business, but served as a vital public service and the nation's heartbeat, providing value far beyond commercial metrics. Gina Filippi, HTS News Force.
97.3 Saint Lucia FM.